Welcome to my channel. I'm Scott, and in this video I'm going to walk you through the process of valuing Pfizer's stock by analyzing their financial statements and dissecting their financial ratios so we can determine if it's a buy or a sell. Let's get started with the model. This is a large cap company, 124 billion market cap. They're trading at $22 a share and they have 5.6 billion shares outstanding. Pfizer has developed some of the world's most important medicines and vaccines. They're best known for Zoloft, an antidepressant, Viagra, an erectile dysfunction medication, Xanax, an antidepressant, as well as over-the-counter products such as chapstick and Preparation H. The company is headquartered in New York City, and they were founded in 1849. Let's look at their financials. The way you value a company is you estimate the free cash flows into the future and then you discount those numbers back to today's value. That's what we're doing in this video. And free cash flow is cash flow from operations minus capital expenditures. Look how much free cash flow they had in 2021, 30 billion. It did come down to 26 billion in 2022, which is still a good number, but then way down 82% to 5 billion in 2023, but it has doubled. Nearly 10 billion in 2024. They just completed their 2024 fiscal year. Net income is the profit or loss on the income statement. It's revenue minus expenses. That peaks in 2022, 31 billion, way down to 2 billion, down 93% in 2023, but up nearly 300% in 2024 to 8 billion. Revenue is the sales for the company, and that hit over 100 billion in 2022, down a lot in 2023. But it is up a little bit in 2024 to 64 billion, up 7%. And they pay a massive dividend, nearly 7%. And they could cover that dividend 1.2 times with their free cash flow. We estimated 4 years of future free cash flows. We also estimated a terminal value, which is all cash flows. Past year 4, that's 278 billion. We discounted those numbers back to today using the weighted average cost of capital. We get a value of the company of $240 billion. We divide that by 5.6 billion shares. And we get a calculated stock price of $42. They're trading at $22, so they're trading at a 48% discount. It's a buy according to the model. There are 18 companies in the same industry as Pfizer, and if they have a number in red, they're worse than the median. If they have a number in blue, they're better. They spend a lot on CapEx. These are the investments in property, plant, and equipment, nearly $3 billion. Novo Nordisk spends the most, $6.6 billion. That's the company that created Ozempic. That's why their market cap has shot up the past few years. Pfizer has a 0.7 debt to equity ratio. For every dollar of equity, 70 cents of debt. They pay a really big dividend. Organon pays the highest, 9%. They generate a lot of free cash flow, nearly 10 billion. That is lower than the median. Johnson & Johnson is number 1 at 20 billion. They rank 10th in market cap. Actually, it should be 11th. Sanofi should be ahead of them. All their price multiples are better than the median. They're trading at 15 times earnings, 13 times free cash flow, and 2 times revenue. They generate a lot of revenue, 64 billion, which is higher than everybody else except Johnson & Johnson. Their 5-year annual revenue growth rate is 9%. Novo Nordisk is the highest at 17%. And the stock is going down constantly. It's trading at its 52-week low. It's 28% below its 52-week high. So it seems like a good time to get in. The stock keeps going down though. If you put $10,000 into this company 10 years ago and reinvested the dividends, you'd be at $11,000 today, a 1% return, a 1% annual return, a 14% total return. So to summarize, I have them trading at a 48% discount, ranking 8 out of 10. Would I buy it short term? It seems like a really good time, 8 out of 10. Long term, it seems like an amazing investment, 10 out of 10. But why don't I put all my money into Pfizer? I don't have brass balls, I can't do it, but I should. We can look back on this video in a few years and you'll see that I said buy Pfizer. Ratios 9 out of 10, really good ratios, trading below the median in each category. Financials are really weak, 4 out of 10. Everything's going down, but they still have a lot of free cash flow, 10 billion. It is a lot lower than 2021, but still 10 billion is the market median. Let's look at their 10K. Here's their income statement. Revenue has gone down a lot, 101 billion in 2022, 60 billion, up to 64 billion in 2024. 54 billion of the revenue is in products, 8 billion alliance revenue, 1.4 billion royalties. Let's see if they give a breakdown of the revenue. Of the 64 billion of revenue, 39 billion is in the US, 16 billion in developed markets, $9 billion in emerging markets. That's where their revenue came down the most. In developed markets, it was $40 billion, down about 60% from that point. Emerging was $17 billion. That's down about 45%. Here's a breakdown of the revenue by product. Of the $64 billion, $30 billion is in primary care. Their biggest drug is Eliquis, $7.4 billion. Then Prevnar, $6.4 billion. Paxlovid, that's for COVID, that's $5.7 billion. That was $19 billion in 2022. Comirnaty is down a lot, from $38 billion to $5 billion. Comirnaty is also linked to COVID. That's why it's down a lot. Let's look at drugs in specialty care. Vyndaqel, $5.5 billion. That more than doubled from 2022. Xeljanz, $1.2 billion. That's down from $1.8 billion. Let's go back to the income statement. Below revenue is cost of revenue, $18 billion. These are all the expenses directly tied to generating the revenue, like manufacturing the products. Then you have SG&A, $15 billion. R&D, $11 billion. That's down from 2 years ago. It was $11.4 billion. Amortization, $5.3 billion. So their operating income is $8 billion. It was $35 billion in 2022, but up a lot from last year. Last year was $1.1 billion. So it's up about 700% from last year. Their net income, $8 billion. So their EPS, $1.41. Last year was 37 cents. Shares outstanding are pretty flat, up a little bit. It was 5.6 billion in 2022. Now it's a little under 5.7 billion. Let's look at a statement of cash flows. Operating cash flow, that's how much cash they generate from running their day-to-day business, 12 billion. It was over 29 billion 2 years ago. Last year, 8.7 billion. So it's up about 50% from last year. They had a cash inflow of 2.7 billion from their investing section. They spent 2.9 billion on PP&E. These are their investments in property, plant, and equipment. They had a cash inflow of 7 billion from selling one of their business units, Haleon. Haleon makes Sensodyne toothpaste and also Advil. In their financing section, they had a cash outflow of 17 billion. They paid back 11 billion of debt, and they paid out 9.5 billion of dividends, which is higher than last year of 9.2 billion. Before that, 9 billion. Let's look at Pfizer and Simply Wall Street. Its last price, 122 billion market cap, down 5% in the past week, down a whopping 15% in the past year. It looks like Pfizer started trading in 1990 at $2.86 a share. This is stock split adjusted. The low was $2.33. Then from 1990 to 1999, it went from 3 to 47. Then it took over 2 decades, almost 2.5 decades, to beat their all-time high. The next time it broke through 47 was in 2021. And the peak was in December 2021, 59. Many stocks peaked at the end of 2021. There was a huge run-up after the COVID bottom. And then by October 2022, it came down to 44, then up to 54 2 months later. But ever since then, since the end of 2022, a little over 2 years, it's just gone downhill. So in 1 year, 53 to 29. Then it traded sideways for about a year. It was at 30 in October 2024. And just the past month, it's come down a lot. Just a month ago it was 26, but now it's getting close to 20. Is this the bottom? I keep thinking it's the bottom for Pfizer, but it keeps going lower. Simply Wall Street's valuation is 71. They say the stock is 69% undervalued. 21 analysts priced this stock at 31. They also say it's undervalued. You can see their revenue back in 2021 was 80 billion. It got up to over 100 billion in 2022, and then it's come down to around 50 to 60 billion. And the forecast for 2027 is 62 billion. So if it hits 62 billion, the stock won't go up that much. It needs to get back up to north of 80 billion. They do have a lot of debt. It was 38 billion in 2014. The peak was 72 billion at the end of 2023. They brought it down to 65 billion currently. But equity is always higher than their debt. Equity peaked at 101 billion in April 2023. Currently, equity is 89 billion. Equity is assets minus liabilities. And they do have a lot of cash on their balance sheet, 20 billion. Plenty to service the debt. They just need about 4 billion of cash to pay the interest on their debt. 20 billion is more than enough. Their dividend back in 2015 was 3%. It stayed between 3 and 4% for about a decade, But as the stock price has come down, the yield has come up. Now the yield is 8%. The forecast is 8% by 2027. And here's their quarterly dividend payment. It's always consistent, and it pretty much only goes up, either flat or up. It was 28 cents in 2015. Now it's 43 cents. The CEO's salary went from 1.4 million to 1.8 million. Total compensation, 25 million. Tenure as CEO, 6 years. In the past year, there's been a couple of insider sells, a couple of buys. 67% of the company is owned by institutions, 33% by the general public. Vanguard is the biggest shareholder at 9%, then BlackRock, State Street, Norgis, 1.5%, State Farm, 1%, Dimensional, 0.5%, T. Rowe Price, 1/3 of 1%. And their employee count has gone down. It was 78,000 in 2014, peaking at 100,000 in 2015. Now it's 81,000. The ticker trades on lots of places: New York Stock Exchange, Mexican Bolsa, London Stock Exchange, Deutsche Börse, Zitra, Colombia Bolsa, Santiago, Borsa Italiana, Wiener Börse, Lima Bolsa, Bulgaria, the BATS Europe, Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo Bolsa, and the NEO. So if you want to get a copy of my discounted cash flow model, click on the video in the top right corner.